Okay, guys, here we go with part two on my notes on Babylon Revisited. And what I want to do with this is just look at a few specific passages. I'm trying to do two or three things at once here, but I think we should be good to go. The first one is just on whatever document you read this on. It's going to be early on page one. He's talking to the bartender and he says, "I'm going slow these days." And by now, you obviously know what that means. He's going slow with the drinking, slow with the partying, slow with all the excess. And what's interesting is slowing these things down is improving his life. We don't often think about going slow as being better. He knows that. He knows the experience of having not lived slow, and living fast is what has harmed him. This is an important sentence early on because he's right. He is going slow, and he maintains that throughout the entire text, which I didn't expect from him. The pull of a fast lifestyle is easy, even for those who have learned their lesson. Uh, he is going to live slow, and obviously his life is better for it. Second quote is not long after that. For me, it's on my second page of reading. He's describing Paris, and I just love the adjectives here. Fitzgerald is a master with words, and you look at the adjectives for the signs, the colors he uses. He says, outside the fire red, gassed blue, ghost green signs shone smokily through the tranquil rain. I mean, look at that. Instead of just red, blue, and green, it is fire red, gas blue, ghost green, forcing you to deal with all of the denotations and connotations that go with those words. You think of fire and ghosts and gas, those aren't typically positive words. Those are dangerous words. And so it's just a brief descriptive sentence, but he attacks those adjectives, and I love seeing that from Fitzgerald. Third one isn't really a quote, it's a name, Honoria. What a great name for the daughter. Obvious roots there with honor, and he wants to be honorable, and he wants her to have an honorable life. And so to see that, I just, what a curious name, and obviously Fitzgerald is trying to make a point with that. That point is connected just towards the end of the first section. He says these things. He believed in character. He wanted to jump back a whole generation and trust in character again as the eternally valuable element. So just like her name is Honoria, honor, honorable, he wants to believe in character again. He wants to believe that that's what matters, not this money, not this excess, not this partying. He wants to go back to a time where character matters, and he wants to believe in that character. Also, just before section 2, the word dissipate. It's huge. 4 paragraphs from the end of section 1. So much for the effort and ingenuity of Montmartier. I'm obviously not great at French here. All the catering to vice and waste was on an utterly childish scale, and he suddenly realized the meaning of the word dissipate, to dissipate into thin air, to make nothing out of something. These years, this excess time, he found a way to make nothing out of something. That's what it means to dissipate. And that's a heavy word that gets repeated again in this text, to dissipate. And he sees all the nothingness. Later, there's a quote about turning months into days, essentially living in such a fog that he turned those months into only a couple of brief memories. And a lot of the memories he wasn't even proud of. That's what excess does. Excess, greed, waste, partying it up, according to Fitzgerald, is a way to dissipate, to turn something into nothing, to turn all the goodness of his life into things that are not quite so good. Well, I love that passage and his use of the word dissipate throughout this text. In part 3, I just thought it was notable, this intense conversation that he has with Marion. There's this intense, heavy conversation, and in it, this is, obviously shows that huge conflict between the two of them. And it's this constant going back and forth between the present and the past. His present desires and her present feelings are inextricably connected to the past. And so we've talked about that connection in my previous video. And that intense conversation between the two of them is just heavy, basically only through dialogue, does a great job at mingling present and past. Again, a major theme in this text. I also like middle of section 3. He makes this statement. Our main character makes this statement. Oh no, he said, I've learned. I worked hard for 10 years, until I got lucky in the market. That's what did him in, getting lucky in the market. And so many people viewed the huge market rise and the get rich quick as being lucky. It's obviously an ironic statement. Lucky enough to have everything dissipate, to have turned all of this wealth into nothing, and all of the good things in this life into nothing as well. The beginning of part 4, again, intermingling of past and present. I love he breaks things up in these sections, and section 4 starts with, he woke up feeling happy. The door of the world was open again. He made plans, vistas, futures for Honoria and himself. But suddenly he grew sad, remembering all the plans he and Helen had made. She had not planned to die. He woke up feeling happy because of the present opportunity to bring home Honoria, and immediately he turns sad, remembering the past. There's a constant back and forth between past and present going on, and the beginning of section 4 shows that. And then you go to part 5, and just a few brief spots, really close to the end of the text. Charlie, our main character, is talking at the bar, and I believe it's the bartender, tells him, I heard that you lost a lot in the crash. Charlie corrects him. I did, he added grimly, but I lost everything I wanted in the boom. It was the good times. It was the luxury. It was the riches. It was when he was lucky that he lost everything that actually mattered to him. Everything I wanted, I lost in the boom. It's typically not hard times that hurt people, according to Fitzgerald. It's the good times that are not handled well. And this time of modernism, this time of the expatriates, and people would say a lot of times in American history, are these times of boom, where people are really done harm. They create a past that they can't recover from. And that's how our text ends. Our last paragraph, you get this tragic end. He hopes for the future. He recognizes the past. And frankly, this is the only kind of end that Fitzgerald sees from those that are caught up in the excess, including himself. And so those are just a few of the passages that stood out to me. Hopefully you were starring and marking as you read and interacting with the text and saw some things that you liked. Again, I'd love your comments. I'd love to hear what stood out to you. And so be writing about these short stories in whatever way you see fit. Cover some ground and be thinking critically about your own personal response and what mattered to you in the text. Thanks for listening.